Welcome back to Timeless America, the home of untold truths, unfolding history, and stories that define the world we live in. Tonight's story isn't from a dusty chapter in an old book. It's from the skies above Europe this week. A night when the world held its breath. A night when 728 drones roared across Ukrainian skies and NATO jets roared into action. This is the story of a war that refuses to sleep. A war that grows darker and louder, low, distant, and growing. Louder every minute, not thunder, not planes, but drones. Hundreds of them, some were small, buzzing low like metallic wasps. Others were massive, carrying explosives that could rip through homes, hospitals, and hearts. 728 drones in total, a number too surreal to believe. But that's what President Volodymyr Zelensky would later confirm, a new massive Russian attack. On our cities, over 300 Shaheds and 13 missiles, Kinzhals and Iskanders. The date will be remembered not just by Ukraine, but by the world. Because this was not just another attack, it was Russia's largest ever drone assault. And it brought NATO one step closer to a war it's been desperately trying to avoid. In the dim control rooms of Ukraine's air defense systems, sirens howled. Screens blinked red, lights flickered, and brave men and women, tired, outgunned, but unshaken, rose from their chairs, picked up radios, and faced the sky. They were outnumbered, but they weren't outwilled. Mobile fire units scattered across Ukraine moved like phantoms, trucks with mounted guns, hidden launchers, and volunteers using modified tech to bring down mechanical beasts in the sky. Zelensky, addressing the nation with a voice cracked by fatigue and fury, said, "Our interceptor drones were used, dozens of enemy targets were downed." Mobile fire groups were also active. They downed dozens as well. Let's stop here for a second and absorb the number again. 728 drones. And not just any drones, Shaheds made in Iran, now rebranded by Russia, carrying deadly payloads. Alongside them, Kinzhals and Iskanders, hypersonic missiles capable of flying at 10 times the speed of sound, the kind of weapons that don't just destroy buildings, they break morale. But not in Ukraine. In Lutsk, in Ukraine's northwest, the battle was loudest. The city's air defense teams had less than 2 minutes to lock onto their targets. The sky was a fireworks show from hell flashes, trails, and smoke. Kids cried in underground shelters, mothers clutched their babies in candlelit basements. And overhead, Ukrainian warriors guided old Soviet-era launchers with modern precision, bringing down machines built for mass destruction. Out of the 728 drones and missiles, 718 were neutralized. Ukraine's Air Force later confirmed 303 of them were shot down by fire. 415 lost mid-flight, jammed, misfired, confused by anti-drone interference, but 10 still got through. And 10 were enough to leave a nation bleeding again. In Dnipro, a residential block shook as a shade exploded. In Zhytomyr, windows shattered. In Kyiv, families huddled in subway stations, waiting for silence. In Kharkiv, Mykolaiv, Sumy, Cherkasy, everywhere the night was long, the fear was endless. Zelensky listed the cities, one by one. Each name a wound, but this wasn't just a military maneuver. This was political warfare at its most brutal, because this attack came just as world leaders were talking peace, just as diplomats pushed for a ceasefire, and just as hopes flickered that the war might see a pause, even for a week. Russia's answer. A sky full of drones, Zelensky, bitter but resolute, said, "This is a telling attack at a time when efforts have been made to achieve peace, and yet Russia rebuffs them all." He wasn't just speaking to Ukrainians. He was looking directly into the eyes of the West, of Europe, of NATO, of America. And NATO did respond. As the drones crossed Ukrainian borders, radars lit up across Eastern Europe. Fighter jets from Poland and Romania were scrambled. French and British surveillance planes went active. NATO didn't fire, but it watched, tracked, prepared, and the message was clear. One step into NATO territory. And it's no longer just Ukraine's war. Zelensky called for what he's called for 100 times before. But this time with more desperation: sanctions. Biting sanctions on oil, on everything that fuels Moscow's war machine. Because even now, millions of dollars flow into Russia's economy every day, not just through black markets, but through open trade, gas pipelines, and quiet loopholes that powerful nations still refuse to close. 3 years of war, and their economy is still breathing, Zelensky said. Why? It's a question no Western leader has answered convincingly. And after this attack, they may no longer have time to, but behind all the strategy and politics, there's something else, something you won't see in official statements or news headlines. It's the human cost. The air defense volunteer who hasn't seen his kids in weeks. The teenage girl who used to study dance, now learning how to treat shrapnel wounds. The grandmother who bakes bread for soldiers every morning in a city where explosions are more common than rain. This war is not just about drones and missiles. It's about survival, spirit, silence between bombings, and yet the resilience remains. In the morning, despite craters in the ground, the Ukrainian flag still flies. And now, let's talk about the implications. Because if Russia can launch 728 drones in one night, what's next? 1,000, 2,000. And what happens if one malfunctions and lands in Poland, Romania, or Hungary? What happens when NATO no longer has time to watch, but is forced to respond? This isn't just a Ukrainian story anymore. This is a global fuse, and each drone is a spark. In the end, Ukraine survived the night, barely. They shot down most of the invaders. They stood their ground, and they sent a message: we are not giving up. No matter how many drones you send, no matter how many missiles you fire. But for how long can they hold? That answer isn't just Ukraine's to give. It's ours, the world's, because peace isn't just signed by presidents. It's earned by standing up when the skies grow dark. If this story moved you, share it. Let the world know what happened that night. The mainstream media might forget in a week, but we won't. Like this video if you believe in truth. Subscribe to Timeless America if you believe stories like this must be remembered. And comment below, should NATO do more? Or has the world done enough? Because history is being written one missile, one drone, one sleepless night at a time.